So today I thought we would discuss once again these fast e-bikes and what they mean. So stick around. Well, hello again, Internet. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, this is kind of a new platform for us to be doing the videos this way, but I thought that would be a little bit appropriate on this one right here. Typically, when we're doing our videos, we just speak off the cuff while we're out riding. We don't have a script or anything like that. I wanted to have a few notes for this one right here because we recently did a video on the fast e-bikes, and we got a lot of comments on it. I believe that a lot of people misunderstood my position on this, and I thought I would not only clarify that, but expand on it just a little bit. So my position is I would like to see these faster bikes be in a different category, not a different class. And you know, a lot of people say maybe they should be a class 4 or they're undefined e-bikes. Well, as we go through this today, I think you'll kind of understand why I would like to see them. Oh, maybe what we have right now is an e-bike and this is called an e-cycle or something like that. And why is that? Well, because there's a big divide between e-bikers and others, be it pedestrians or the road cyclist or you know, regular, what would be called, I guess, acoustic bikes. There is a divide there, and people lump all e-bikers together. The e-bikers are out there flying around on the streets and jumping on the sidewalks. The e-bikers are traveling too fast on the cycleways and that kind of thing. That divide is real. Is it justified? I don't know. Here in Raleigh area, which is where we're from, the central North Carolina area. But we've seen this on the road trips that we take on a lot of different places. Seems to me that the majority of the e-bikes that I see are actually more mature couples that, or people that are trying to get back out there and get mobile again. They're actually being very respectful of everybody. So that's what we see. Now, we stick to the cycleways quite a bit of the time. That's what we're out to do, or the rail trails, that kind of thing. But hey, this video that we did, I guess about a month or so back, several videos back, I'd like to look at some of the comments, and we're not going to look at the individual comments. I'm not going to be calling anybody out, but we're just going to talk about the flavor of the comments. And I guess the first one we'll talk about is, I had made mention in the video, if I wanted a motorcycle, I would go out and buy a motorcycle. If I wanted to ride around at 35, 40 miles an hour on the road, I'd go buy a motorcycle and do that. And, oh boy, that caused some comments. Well, you know, the difference between a motorcycle and an e-bike is just, there are so many of them. You don't have to get them registered. You don't have to carry insurance. You're allowed to take them onto the sidewalks, and you can use the bike lanes, and I can't afford the insurance, and so it's a much easier learning curve, all of that. Well, I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that, and they may not be real popular, but that's a loophole. Do I have a problem with using a loophole? No, I have used them anytime I get a chance, anywhere I get the chance. I will use a loophole. Our job is to play by the rules in life. And if there's a rule that gives you an advantage, play by it. I have no problem at all with that. Here's what I do have a little bit of an issue with is, will that loophole, when they close it, close around my neck? And they're only closing it because of you. Is it going to close around my neck or other people's neck that would have never been, nobody would have tried to close it? That's kind of what I'm getting at. You know, these bikes are getting so fast, and they're doing that so that they don't have to register, they don't have to have insurance. But when it comes down to it, why, at some point when they get up there to about 50-mile-an-hour bikes, they're going to require us to register them. They're going to require you to keep insurance on them. And is that going to be all e-bikes? Now e-bikes have to be registered and insured. That's an issue that I could see coming up. Don't think it hasn't happened. In California, for off-road motorcycles, they have what's called a green sticker. Never had that back when I was in my racing days. You could ride your bike on public lands. Nowadays, you have to have certain certification before you can even ride your bike on public lands. That means many, many, many of the bikes that we were able to ride no longer can. So let's go on here. E-bikes should be able to keep up with traffic. I even had one scenario about how dangerous I was because of my wide mountain bike handlebars and my wide tires with a rolling resistance, and I shouldn't be going that slow. Well, I think we can all come up with scenarios. How about this as a scenario? You got out here in the country, you got an area of road 400 yards between two blind corners, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. You come around there, you got two bikers. Well, one day you got me out there doing, let's say, 18 to 20 miles an hour. Guy comes around, he goes around me in 100 yards. He's around me, back onto the road, and he moves on over. You've got somebody else doing 30 miles an hour out on that road. Now, the speed limit is 45. Guy comes around, that means he's traveling 55. And he says, well, I'm going to go around this guy too. It takes him twice as long to pass that 30-mile-an-hour biker, so he has to, he needs 200 yards to get around. Somebody else comes around the corner coming towards him, so he runs you off the road. Once he runs you off the road, you got them thin little, very good rolling tires go into the gravel and dump you into the ditch. You see, we could all make scenarios of how our way is the best. I'm not really interested in doing it that way, but I did want to throw out that scenario that, you know, no, there is no safe speed unless you're going to make it to where it can go up to 65 miles an hour, because I think there's some 70-mile-an-hour speed limits out in the West, so maybe we should make the e-bikes to where they go 70 miles an hour. That would be the argument you would have to go with. So, yeah, we're just going to move on from that. Here's another, actually something that I could kind of get behind, with the exception of the fact that I know how government works. We've had some experience firsthand with how things go there, and so, but have everything based off of a speed limit. That actually makes sense. You can drive a Lamborghini through a 25-mile-an-hour school zone and you don't get a ticket for it, and they're not going to ban Lamborghinis because there's some school zone somewhere. Here is the problem with that enforcement of it. Now, let's say we're talking about a bikeway, a little cycleway in a little community. And during one of the town council meetings, people start complaining about the e-bikers flying around on the cycleway. Well, here's our town council. They have a choice. They have option number one. Let's put a speed limit in place. Actually, most cycleways and bikeways already have a speed limit in place, but they go ahead and put a speed limit in place. All right, we have solved the problem for our people. And a couple months go by and the people come back. Nobody's paying attention to this speed limit. You need to do something. Where's that burden fall? Now it comes right back onto the town council. The burden is on their shoulders now to take care of something that they put into place. Or they have option number two from the beginning. Just ban these e-bikes. That's what they say is doing it. So let's get rid of the e-bikes. Boom, banned. You know, we're going through and looking at some of these places, and they're banning e-bikes in quite a few places as we speak, on quite a few trails. So there's a trail out in Arizona, 200-mile loop, no e-bikes. You want to take that up to something a little bit more like the rail trails and state funded things, well, welcome to your state legislatures. They're going to do the same thing. When's the last time they've ever voted a pay cut? So they're not going to place more burden on themselves unless they have to. So that would be the only issue that I would have with this stuff going for a speed limit. Now, several people in here mentioned, don't worry about it. You're just worrying about something that's not going to happen because the cops ain't going to enforce this anyway. They're more worried about other things. Yep, you're exactly right. They are more worried about other things. So again, welcome to your state legislatures. They're the ones that can put something in place that much easier to enforce. Now we don't have to go out there and follow the speed limit. If somebody gets a report that they've got an e-bike on the trail, you just go down to the trail and pick them up. So throw them off the trail, give them a ticket, whatever be the case. Another comment, we need a new class of these e-bikes. I believe you're right, and I think some folks have even floated the idea of a class 4, which is an undefined e-bike. I would prefer to see that it's a different category. Like I said, from an e-bike to an e-cycle or something along those lines. That ship may have already sailed and it's gone away from the dock by now is a possibility. But I would like to see if that would be possible to go ahead and set these things in a totally new category. Yeah, that way, when people come in and say the e-cycles are out there flying around, the Surons and things like that, you can get pedals for Surons. You don't even have to have them hooked up, but that's enough to fool most people into thinking what you have is an e-bike. We are going to take a look now. The Consumer Product Safety Commission did a report on injuries and whatnot from e-bikes and micromobility. That's e-bikes, e-scooters, hoverboards, that type of thing. But over a 5-year period from 2017 to 2022, there were, let's see if we can find it here, 360,000, almost 361,000. I'm kind of looking through this here to get that. I had it highlighted, but my highlight disappeared on it. 361,000 injuries over that 5-year period. There were 233 deaths in that 5-year period. Now think of when this 5-year period ends. It was 2022. That's before a lot of these fast e-bikes were really coming out. They've really accelerated how well they're coming out. And this statistic also had spoken about, with this, the increase of from 2017, 39% to 2018, 46% up, the next year. It keeps getting steadily more, a steadily higher death rate, injury rate. So the injuries are coming. Well, we did have one video response to our to the video that we did there. And I think he did actually a very respectful job on it. I have no problem with the response that he had, but one thing that was mentioned in there many, many times was, hey, this is America. This is where, this is what we want. Well, let's talk a little bit more about America, because the Consumer Product Safety Commission also did a study back in the 1980s. And some of you may know, some of you may not know, in the 1980s, the early 80s, I rode off-road motorcycles. I raced off-road motorcycles to what at that time became the highest level that you could attain on it. So I was pretty intense with it. And about that time, they had ATCs, they were first called, and ATVs, all-terrain vehicles or all-terrain cycles. They were three-wheelers. When those things first come out, they were put on farms, ranches. They were used as utility vehicles, basically. And they would be on construction sites. So supervisors on large construction sites, where they're building prisons or military bases. They could move around and get going. Well, they started making these things, people started riding them faster, and they started wanting faster ones. And they made them faster and faster and faster. Pretty soon, people started racing them. Some of my friends raced them. I had one friend by the name of Trey that was extremely good on one. He amazed me how well he could keep up with me on a three-wheeler. But it was that same Consumer Product Safety Commission that did a study on these three-wheelers. And they had, at that time, 300,000 injuries. This was from 1983 to 1988. I think it was 82 to 87. 300,000 injuries. That's less injuries than the 5-year period that they studied on the e-bikes, and 1,000 deaths in that 5-year period. Now, the micro-mobility e-scooters, e-bikes are not up quite to that level yet, but they're getting there. And the way these things are getting faster and faster, they're going to continue getting there. Well, what happened with that? Well, I'll tell you what happened with it. In January 1988, the sale of any three-wheel motorcycle was banned throughout the United States. They completely shut down the industry total. They were no longer allowed to sanction any events that used these things. Oh, if you had one, you could still use it on your farm or ranch or on your construction site, but they banned them completely. Yep, this is America. Do you think that can't happen with the e-bikes? Think again. History has already shown us it has happened before, so it can happen. Am I real concerned that this is going to happen? No, I'm not overly concerned that that is what's going to happen, but I do think because they are making these things faster, and let me tell you right now, I think they should continue to make them as fast as they want to make them, and I think you should be able to go out and buy one as fast as they will make them. If you can modify it, you can make it faster. I absolutely 100% do not like to see regulations coming in. What I would like to see, though, is these things under a different category, because here's my concern. While I am against regulation, I am also a realist. I know they're coming. They're already starting it in California and New York, and they're starting it very heavy in them states. And you know, California is not Nevada, down there in Las Vegas. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, what happens in New York and California, it doesn't stay there. It spreads across the entire country, kind of like a plague. So, you know, we know these things are coming because they've already started them. I'm trying to limit the damage that would happen with them. So am I against somebody having them? No, not a bit. Am I against you even riding them on the greenways? Not a bit. But here's what I'd like to see. Call them something different so that when the town people come in and demand that something be done about this particular thing, let's say these Surons, they're not encompassing myself, probably the majority of you in with it. So, yeah, not only can it happen around here, it has happened in other industries. The off-road motorcycles, or the three-wheelers, ATCs, ATVs. No such thing as those anymore. So I think that's going to wrap it up. To sum it up, you know, as I just stated, you go out, you do you. I'm not saying you should be regulated or not, but I know the regulations are coming, and what I don't want to have happen is the regulations that happen because you want to have a fast bike end up affecting me when that's not what I'm interested in having. So we'll just go ahead and leave it at that right there. I think that's going to wrap it up for this one, but I'd like to hear some more comments down. You know, put your comments, what your thoughts are on it. Should they be under a different, just a class 4? Or should we try and push for a new category for these things? No sense in saying should they be regulated, should they not be regulated, because we already know that's going to happen. We know this. Also, let me know what you think of this format of, you know, more like a podcast type format of doing these videos. Let me know what you think on that too. So I think that's going to wrap it up. Until the next time, when hopefully on the next one, we're going to be out there. Well, hey, this is Southern E-Biking telling you, stay safe, God bless, and keep the wheels rolling. Once again, we're out.